When I was a little girl, I must have fallen in love all the time. The minute I started kindergarten, I always had crushes on the other little boys. And from then on, it's just history. I never even realized I was sexy. I thought everybody was like I was. You know, when you're little and young, you just don't even think about, you know, sex. I didn't know what the word meant, you know, and so in those days, you didn't talk about it. You just were yourself, and I was lucky. I was, you know, God was very good to me as far as my attributes were concerned. Well, I met Clark Gable the first time. Well, I first saw him was in South Dakota pheasant hunting. I was 5 years old, and he was leaving the airport in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and they were pheasant hunting with Carol Lombard. That was the first time I saw him. And I told him when I first saw him, when I was sitting with him doing a scene with him and in Teacher's Pet. He says, oh yeah, and then he said that I remind him a little bit of Carol. So that was very nice. He and I hit it off really well. He liked martinis. He was married to Kay at that time. And but he had eyes, and I would go into his dressing room. He had it in the back, kind of, you know, and he had martinis, and so I came in and had a martini with him, and I sat on his lap. And he said, he invited me in there, and he said, I want you to come in and see your pictures. And I said, pictures? And I said, yeah. So I went in there. He had these pictures of me in his dressing room. And I'm going, wow, Clark Gable's got pictures of me? And so we had pictures taken together, and Edith Head, who did designing, very famous fashion designer in the studios in those days, she had me all in white, like Jean Harlow. She had everything I had was in white. And I remember I sat on his lap, but he was very shy. Gable was very shy, and he had a mustache, and it always got in the way. I've kissed him, but I never went to bed with him. That's as far as I got. His wife was always there. Steve McQueen, he'd come up, and then I didn't want him to spend the night with me in bed because I had my son there and everything. So he would go out in the car, and I said, don't drive home, you better, I says, I'm okay, I'll drive home. So I get up in the morning, and he's still sleeping in his car out in the thing, and I said, oh God, why is he doing that? I should have let him sleep at least in the living room. But I wouldn't let him sleep now. Well, I think about it now, poor Steve, you know, he's sitting in his car sleeping. But he'd come up and he'd give me daisies and he'd drink beer out of the refrigerator, and we carried on for a while. And then I think his wife got a wind of it. I never really thought about myself as being a mistress, not in the sense of the word, you know, like you're kept mistress and you know, the other woman. I would never want to be the wife. I would always want to be the mistress. And when I talk to women that are being kept, they said, oh, it's terrible. You don't know when he's going to see you. And I says, well, find somebody else in the meantime, you know? Why would you have to sit around and wait for him? Burt Reynolds was doing a movie in New York with Diane Cannon, and he says, you know, he says, they've called me the male Mamie Van Doren. And I'm going, I've never heard of a man say that to me, that they're the male Mamie Van Doren. That was the strangest thing I'd ever heard. He's always kind of like bragging how great he is in bed, you know, and he's talking about saying, oh man, this is going to be the start of something big. Burt Reynolds, you know, he was in Cosmopolitan with his, you know, a hat over it. And I says, I got to see what's behind that hat. So, much to my surprise, I said a Tipperillo would have covered it nicely. It was a big letdown, may I tell you. But then when he climaxed, when we were in bed, he climaxed and he hollered, Judy! And I'm going, he was just married to Judy Carney, and he's calling me by his ex-wife's name. I wanted to take his toupee and grab it off and put it down the toilet, but I didn't.